But this actually reminded me of some recordings that we recently heard from some of the Palestinians who were in Israeli prisons in Gaza, by the way, because they have built some prisons inside Gaza
Yeah.
and in Israel. And these prisoners who went out of prison, they told horrific testimony about what happened to them in the Israeli prisons. Torture is way worse. It's 100 times worse than Guantanamo. And I remember 2 days ago, I heard a recording for one of the prisoners, and he said that the Israelis blindfolded him, and they stripped him naked, and they had dogs have sex with him. So what's going on there in prison is unbelievable. It's beyond horrific. But I also believe that now we are in a turning point in history. The world has seen things in Gaza that hasn't seen before. Today, just this morning, I saw a video of, these airdrops, and they landed in a tent for people. I don't know how many people were killed in this tent, and women and the children were all like just running towards this airdrop just to collect some food to survive. Recently, we heard that yes, 15,000 children were killed in Gaza, but there's another 21,000 children missing right now. Horror is beyond measure. It's unfathomable.
I read that this morning. I can't remember what I was reading, but I read that figure this morning.
And yes, and last week I was in Beirut, and I was in a panel with another journalist who came from Gaza, and he told me stuff that he's seen in Gaza that are very, very different from what we hear in the news. So it's beyond imagination. And at that panel, I was asked if this war, it changed me in a way or another, and I told him that this war made me 100 or 1,000 times stronger than ever before. And this war, it changed so many people. And even Matt told me that this war changed him forever. So I really want to understand, and ask you, if you may, did this war, did this genocide in Gaza changed you or changed something in you?
Absolutely, yeah. You can't. Nobody can ignore it anymore. The cat is out of the bag. They've completely exposed themselves for the awful, dreadful people that they are. The Israelis I'm talking about. And not just the government, because it's largely supported by the people of Israel.
Exactly.
And I'm not talking about Jews. It doesn't matter who does this. It doesn't matter, obviously, what you're... Well, because... we did a gig last Friday, and there was about 50 or something people with the Israeli flags chanting, calling me an anti-Semite and all that nonsense, which is a complete side issue. This has nothing to do with anti-Semitism. None of it has anything to... Obviously, I'm not an anti-Semite. Neither is anybody else that I know. If we were anti-Semites, we'd be off sitting in our room, being anti-Semitic and hating Jews. Well, we don't give a shit whether you're a Jew or not. It's irrelevant. Or a Muslim or a Christian. It's completely irrelevant. But what is not irrelevant is that we care about human rights. So I've been banging on about this for years and years and years. It's only about human rights.
Exactly.
I make this point constantly. And what this war, it's not a war. Every time I hear them say, I'm not going to say it, I'm not going to call it a war. It is not a war. It's a genocide. It is a bunch of Nazi thugs murdering people. It has nothing to do with a war. It's exactly the same as the Warsaw Ghetto, with Germans murdering Jewish people. This is Israelis murdering Palestinians. It's not a war. So let's get that out of the way. It drives me crazy when every news item, when the war in Gaza, it's not a war. Anyway, that's a personal opinion of us. But what's extraordinary about now is that they've copped to it. Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer and Biden and Trump and Pence, all the politicians and whoever, the German bloke and Macron and blah, 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 all over Europe. And they've all seen it happen. They know we're all seeing it happen. And they're all going, it's okay. And then the WCJ
normalized.
comes out. It's normalized completely, and they find this court who we looked at, we thought, Christ almighty, this is stuffed with people who won't make any sense. And they did. all except what, there was one dissenting voice. They all said they're committing genocide and we're watching it and it's quite obvious. And the Israelis have to stop. And the Israelis went, we're not going to stop. We want their land and we want them out. And we've always said so. And now we're being completely open about it. And we watch it and it's happening in front of us. So what we, interested parties, are seeing right in front of our eyes is the torture and the this and the burning alive and the rape and the what, all done by Israelis on Palestinians in front of our very eyes, with our leaders and our press all going, well, they have a right to defend themselves. And no, they're not defending themselves. They're murdering a whole people, and also to get them off their land so they can steal it. And it's right in front of our eyes. And it was always a terrible mistake. It was a terrible mistake, the Balfour Declaration in 1917, and it was a terrible mistake all through the 30s to be supporting the settling of. My father was in Jerusalem in 1934 and 1935. He wrote letters home to my grandmother saying how worried he was about the Zionist movement in Palestine and the settling of the land by people from America and from Northern Europe and the buying up of. He said, this is not going to end well, particularly for the local indigenous people, the Palestinians, the Arabs who live there. Which is interesting. I've got the letters.
And these Zionist militias, they killed the British people in Jerusalem.
Absolutely. Well, the King David Hotel, they killed 80 in one night, I believe, 80 people in one night.
But why has it become very normalized, the killing of the children? Now we're talking about 15,000 children killed. As it's like, it's okay, Palestinians can die. Well, they can be in prison, it's okay. But when an Israeli is killed, like the whole world rages. Yeah. And the media start talking. And